Hey, welcome to Mooney Reads. My name is Beck, and today I'm going to be doing the Spring Has Sprung book tag. Spring technically started in the Northern Hemisphere a few days ago, so I thought it would be good to do a seasonal tag, something a little bit fun. You can find the original in the description, and we'll go ahead and get started. The first question is flowers. All the flowers we remember are blooming again. Pick a book that's a fresh take on a retelling. And this one was hard because I don't think I've really read any retellings. I could be wrong. I've read books with like strong allusions in them to other things, but not a straight up retelling. However, I do have one on my TBR that I just got that I'm so excited about. Lost in the Neverwoods by Aiden Thomas. Aiden Thomas wrote Cemetery Boys, so of course I immediately had to grab up whatever they publish next. And I love the idea of a Peter Pan retelling. I've heard a lot of people talk about S.A. Chance Peter Pan retelling, and I've thought about reading it. For whatever reason, the idea of buying it on e-reader just makes me a little bit sad. Like, I'm irritated that I can't get a physical copy, so I just haven't gotten it, which is completely irrational, so I should probably get that too. However, for the moment, I'm going to read Lost in the Neverwoods at some point this spring. I'm super excited for it. I also think that the cover is giving me springtime vibes. That, like, shade of purple. I don't know. Question number 2 is Cadbury Mini Eggs. Obviously the superior springtime candy of choice. Pick a book that you consider to be a sweet treat. And if you all have watched my videos for a while, you'll know that this is going to be a gay graphic novel. There's a lot to pick from. But the most seasonal one that I thought would be good to point out is the Kase-san and series. The first volume of which is Kase-san and Morning Glories. The rest of the series each have different names. There's Kase-san and Bento, Kase-san and Shortcake. Definitely look up a list of all of them. These are the cutest. This is focused on a couple, Kase and Yamada. They are in high school. Yamada is on the team of people that's supposed to be keeping up the school garden, and Kase is kind of a jock. She's a track star at their school, and this is their story of kind of like meeting each other and developing feelings. It's super cute. Book number 7, I believe, should be coming out in I think they pushed it back to June. It was going to be in May, and they keep pushing it back. So I really hope it comes out in June, because I miss them. And it will give me a reason to reread the whole series. Then we have allergies. Seasonal allergies often make your eyes water. Pick a book that made you cry. Lots of books make me cry. Probably most of the books that I've read have made me cry. But the one that within the past year that made me cry the most was, without a doubt, The House of Impossible Beauties by Joseph Cassara. I have sung this book's praises because it is so excellent. If you don't know, The House of Impossible Beauties details the creation of the first ever all Latinx drag house. Some of the characters are actually real people, fictionalized versions of real people who actually put together the House of Extravaganza. To hear more about it, definitely check out my favorites of 2020 video. If I start talking about it, we'll be here all day. But this absolutely made me cry, and not just in a, oh, this sad thing is happening, but maybe they can resolve it, a fucking depressed sort of cry. Like, I had to put down the book because I was sobbing. But this is an excellent book. I'm not really sure if any of it shouts springtime whatsoever, other than the fact that it has multiple colors on the cover. But it certainly made me cry. The next prompt is spring cleaning. Out with the old and in with the new. Pick a book to unhaul. And for this, I'm gonna be cheating just a smidge. I will be unhauling The Picture for Dorian Gray by Oscar Wilde, because I just ordered in, and will hopefully get soon, the uncensored version, which is really what I wanted to read. I'm going back and forth about maybe comparing the two, but I feel like that would be doing the most when it's just something that I want to read. I have a problem not deep diving into stuff. So I will either unhaul this book when the new one gets here, or I will unhaul it after I've compared the two. This was just some random one. I probably found it at a Goodwill or something. It's very old, and it's got a random person's little notes in it, and I like that usually. It really depends on how they do it. And that will be relevant a little bit later on in this video because I have something to say about one of my other copies. But for now, we're going to move on to prompt number 5, which is spring break. It's the perfect time for an adventure. Pick a book involving a road trip. Oh, fuck. I think I skipped this question when I was prepping my books. This is perfect. Okay. It will come around sooner than I thought then. For that, I'm going to pick Nevada by Imogen Binnie. I read this last year, actually during springtime. Definitely has spring or summer vibes. Late spring, summer. Definitely those sort of vibes. This book focuses on our main character, Maria, who is a trans woman living in New York. In the beginning of the book, this character goes through a breakup, and she's kind of in the middle of totally rediscovering herself. She's been out as trans for a while, but she's realizing that there are a lot of pieces of herself that she doesn't really understand. There is a lot of being on the road in this book. A lot of it is around New York, but eventually she does go on a road trip to Nevada. I absolutely love this book, and in fact, I want to do a reread soon. I really want to read this alongside The Catcher in the Rye, because I think they would vibe, which maybe sounds weird, like a book about a trans girl from New York in like the early 2000s, 2010s, versus like a straight boy in like the 1950s in the winter. But I get really similar vibes. I mean, both of the characters are a bit insufferable, but kind of understandably so. They're both, I think, going to be really polarizing books because they are very character-focused. They're definitely more about kind of the character study than the actual plot that's happening. The thing with Nevada, too, to note if you are going to read it, it is a little bit more stream of consciousness. There are no quotations anywhere. So bear that in mind. Some people really don't like that. Some people really do. I adored this book, even though I did see, you know, some specific shortcomings with it. I still really, really liked it. But this is also going to be another book that I unhaul. I know I just talked about rereading it, but I want to get in a new copy because I usually have a perfectly fine time buying used books. And I usually have no problem if people do like highlighting or adding in little notes. It's usually fun to read. But whoever read this book before me was, I don't want to call them insufferable because I don't know them personally. However, their notes were really irritating because they clearly did not like the book. And there were some notes that were just so insensitive. Like, while she was talking about dysphoria, which she brings up a lot because it's something she's dealing with and she's the main character of the story, and the person is like in the margins like, oh, we get it, like, fucking put down the book if you're mad about it. Like, why do you have to do that? So this is technically another book that could go with prompt number 4, but both of these are probably cheating because I'm not really getting rid of anything because I'm getting another copy. That brings us to question number 6, mating season. It's that time of year in the animal kingdom to make some babies. Pick a book with some smutty delights. This one was a little difficult because I don't typically read smutty books. I have read smut before. I read fan fiction, a lot of fan fiction. For a long time, that was like my main source of fiction. But even then, I did a lot of skipping over the fine details. I have tried to read some like adult romance. I kind of sort of started last year with a couple, but never really got into it. Certainly I've read FF ships in fanfiction, but I don't think that I read any that were smutty. So this might have been one of my first times reading something like that. But the one that I did read and liked, Being Hospitable by Mika James, is a FF novella. The whole premise of it is that there's a woman, and her best friend's sister is moving in with her. Her best friend's sister is just starting college, and they end up finding some chemistry between each other. It's cute, it's sweet, kind of BDSM, a lot of discussion of consent, which was really cool. So I liked that. I think that I would have liked it more if the relationship was more developed. I do think that with the time that was given, that the relationship was good. I just think that I wanted something longer than a novella. But that is a smutty book that you could read in spring. Prompt number 7 is rainbows. I just feel like spring is made of freaking rainbows. Pick a book featuring an LGBTQ+ character. All of the books that I've talked about, except for one of them, feature LGBTQ+ characters. But another one that you could definitely read this spring is The Henna Wars by Adipa Jagiridar. I read this last year. I really don't remember what time of the year it was, to be honest. But this cover has definitely got spring vibes. It's like the beginning of the school year, so I guess it's technically like summer to fall, but it's fine. This is a YA contemporary that focuses on the main character, Nishat. She sees her elementary school best friend, Flavia, at a wedding and realizes that she has feelings for her. Then she finds out that Flavia is actually going to be going to her school next year. Now, all of this sounds great, but it gets a little bit complicated when a school project ends up putting them in competition with each other. So this is got a really cute romance, but there's also some really good conversations looking at Nishat coming out to her family as lesbian. There's also bisexual representation because Flavia is bisexual. Both the lesbian and bisexual are on the page, which is great. A lot of the times it's kind of an illusion and not said explicitly. But this was a really cute book. Then we have prompt number 8. Spring Awakening. This is one of my all-time favorite musicals, even though it's filled with completely dysfunctional characters. Pick a book that's also filled with completely dysfunctional characters. And for that, I'm picking a book that I just finished today, and that is Detransition Baby by Torrey Peters. I really liked this book. I'm going to talk about it in the wrap-up a little bit, but I'm actually vlogging my way through this, as well as a few other things, so you can expect that late April, maybe, hopefully. But this is basically the story of Reese and Ames. Reese is a trans woman, and Ames is someone who used to identify as a trans woman, but has since detransitioned. After detransitioning, Ames had an affair with his boss, and got her pregnant. So in trying to figure out kind of where that leaves him, especially with the idea of fatherhood being really weird, he calls Reese and asks if she would be with them and raise the baby as a trio, as a triad. And you see, that's like the plot of the story, but there is so much in here. It goes back and forth between kind of current day with the situation with the baby and back when Ames, then Amy, and Reese were dating in the past. And you get this whole trajectory, but really all 3 of the characters, really you get more of a focus, I think, on Reese and Ames. They're dysfunctional in kind of a lot of different ways. There's a lot of miscommunication, a lot of people being kind of quick to anger, and there are a lot of instances in this where people fuck up. People just straight up, they fuck up. And they have to figure out kind of how to rectify that. I think one of the biggest themes in here, it's debatable, it's got a lot of themes, but is this idea that everything we do is within a context. But the context is really complicated. The context is history, certainly. The context is right now, what is going on. Just because things used to happen doesn't mean that they're going to stop happening. But you also have to think about the fact that the way that they are happening and will happen are also kind of attached to the future, and you have to be cognizant of it, or you will fuck things up in the same way or in different ways. And I think this applies to thinking of group history as well as thinking to individuals. That's at least one of the themes. I don't think that that's the most, like, it's kind of obvious if you look at all the pieces, but, like, the most overt themes would be things like motherhood and femininity. There's a lot to look into this. But anyways, if I continue talking, this will turn into a detransition baby video. I've already talked about this book for at least an hour already today, so I'll stop it there. Prompt number 9 is in like a lion, out like a lamb. Pick a book series that did not get better as it progressed. This one is really difficult because I don't read a ton of series. The series that I have read more recently were all comics and manga, but I have not completed any series that I've been upset with at all. Most of them do get better as they progress, or at least they have like some that are better later on in the series. Even looking back to the last series that I read, like in high school, stuff like The Hunger Games, I liked the second book the best. The last book was my least favorite, so maybe that could fit this, but the first book wasn't, it was good, but it wasn't my favorite. I don't think I have completed a series where the first book is my favorite, which isn't saying very much because I haven't completed very many series. And then you have prompt number 10, fun in the sun, tag some friends. So I'll tag a few people. If I tag you, don't feel obligated, and if I don't tag you, feel free to do it if you want to do it. I feel like I always tag and talk about like the same people, but they're like the people who I already kind of interact with, and there's like a dual anxiety of, am I talking about them too much? Am I being annoying? Versus if I talk about somebody else, will that person think I'm being annoying? Completely useless brain. But I'll tag Ariel from She Wants Addiction, Mariama from Black and Sapphic Reads, Kathy Trithart, and Elise from The Petite Punk. But like I said, if any of you just want to do a fun seasonal tag, here's your excuse to. If you have any seasonal books that you like to reread during the spring, let me know about those down in the comments. Thank you all so much for watching. Bye. Oh, I just realized that I have a snowman in the background. Oh, friend, it's springtime. I need to put him back with my Christmas decorations, but I just haven't. That's hilarious.